Like you, as a caregiver, I too run out of hope, out of patience, out of empathy, out of compassion. I too run out of trying to be positive. And so what I do when that happens is I try to remember that even though I feel scared and anxious and sad and all the bad feelings that we all feel as caregivers at times, I try to remember that these are stages that I'm going through and moments that I'm going through. They're not forever. It's like water. The feelings come, they go, they flow, and that there are other experiences I have in life. But I love the context that Elisabeth Kubler-Ross talked about in her books on this 5 stages of grief. And I have found that, yes, although they may not go in this order for all of us, they are very easy to relate to. The first one being denial. You just want to deny this is happening. I certainly have had those moments where I just did not want to face what it meant for my life and for my husband's life, this disease diagnosis. We also go through anger. Why me? Why my husband? He's been such a good person in life. This shouldn't happen to him. So the feeling of anger as another stage. We can also go into a stage called bargaining, where we kind of make bargains either with ourselves or with God. Like, God, if you do this for me, I swear I will go to church every Sunday, or I will give to the poor, or I will do some penance. So we make these kind of bargains, even silently within ourselves, maybe not out loud in a prayer even. But bargaining is another stage that we may go through to try to move on from this awareness of what our life really is. We still want the power to change it. And then another stage, of course, is depression, sadness, a feeling of there is no hope, this is the way it is, but we feel a struggle with it. We feel sad, we feel down, we feel we can't get out of it, we feel tired. And so these are all things that I relate to as I have gone through this process being a caregiver. And then that last stage is acceptance. And finally, and I don't think this is a one-off 5 stages. I think we go around in the circle of these 5 stages, at least I have, where I get to the stage of acceptance about something or some stage, and then I'm right back in the 5 cycles again in another situation. But that last stage of just accepting this is what it is, and accepting that this is, for me, it's my teaching, it's my growth, it's my husband's path and journey, as hard as it is and as bad as I feel about that for him, just allowing it to be what it is. And so I think those 5 stages are helpful to remember when we go through these various cycles of down feelings. Well, one of the things I have relied on, fortunately, having gone through many forms of therapy myself and been a psychotherapist for over 30 years, there were many processes and skills that I learned about dealing with emotions. And I'm so grateful for that, because sometimes I don't have time to go for a 1-hour session, and I don't have time even to call a friend. But there are many things that I'm learning that are coming in are very helpful to me now. And one of them I want to share with you. And it's a very simple thing. When you're feeling not so good, the feelings are not a good feeling for you. I sit quietly, I close my eyes, and I just let myself name the feelings that I'm having without judgment, without any sense of guilt or shame, just naming the feelings and noticing, is that feeling in a particular area of my body? Do I feel that feeling especially in my neck or shoulders, or do I feel it in my stomach, or does it feel like a tight place in my heart? And just noticing the relationship between the feelings I'm having and my physical body. Just noticing that and allowing them to be there and not trying to make them go away or make it better. I might ask myself, what other times in my life does this feeling seem to come up? Are there certain circumstances or certain people that just push my buttons and make me have this feeling? I wonder if I have a kind of story or history about this feeling of my anger or my sadness or my fear. And I just sit and just try to reflect and connect it to my life and see where it might have a context in my life. And again, just allow it and accept it, not try to argue myself out of it that I shouldn't feel that way, but just completely let myself have these feelings and see my feelings as just a messenger of an opportunity to be more aware of my inner life. And that gives me a chance to just accept them. Going back to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's stages again, moving even into the acceptance stage of each feeling. Then I might also ask myself, how do I want to express this feeling? Now, I might not do it at that moment, but I kind of check out myself. Would these feelings or this feeling I'm having be something I want to put in my journal? Write about in my journal? Is it something I feel like I need to paint a picture and just paint or draw or get out in some artistic expression? Or maybe I just need to put on music and dance it out and just express it in that way. Is it a feeling that I need to just literally have a good scream over? I highly advise screaming for you to do in the car when you're driving, but not too much where other people could hear it or see it. But that's a great way to just release a lot of feeling, is just let out a lot of sound and feeling when you're driving. Unless no one's home, you can do it. But I just find that just getting that energy out of the feeling through sound, not worrying about words and making sense. So those are some of the things that I also do to express, and that might not be in that moment, but I take the time where it's a good time for me to do those things. And then, along with acceptance of those feelings I'm having, and it might be at the same time I do this process, I ask myself, what other feelings do I have that bring balance or perspective to that emotion? So for example, even though I'm feeling angry right now, I really know that in my heart, I can also feel great compassion and love. And even though I'm feeling sad right now, I also know that I have a great joy inside me that is ever ready to be expressed given any opportunity. And even though I might feel scared, I remember that I have courage inside me that I've shown throughout my life. And so I try to remember that there are these other qualities in me that are also part of me, and I'm not just an emotion or just a feeling or just a reaction, but that I'm a full set of qualities that bring perspective and a sense of balance in myself. So without trying to push away those feelings, this other part of this exercise for me gives me a sense of great peace and a sense of equanimity and a sense of balance in myself. And lastly, what I do when I'm finished with that is I do a simple breathing exercise. And all it is I breathe in the sense, just breathe in life, like I'm alive. That's all I know in this very moment. In this moment, I can just breathe in the breath of life. And when I breathe out, I just make the sound of ah. In some cultures, that sound of ah is called the great sound of letting go. It can be used as healing, it can be used as a dying practice, and it can be used simply to release from all the energies that are in our bodies that we just want to clear. So I may take 2 or 3 breaths and just go, ah. And that feels like a complete process for me that only takes maybe 5 minutes. So I invite you to try it and see if it works for you. Well, in retrospect, on this long adventure that's not over, I'm still in it, but I try to kind of look back and see, what's my story here? I noticed that in talking with other people and friends, I kind of have two storylines. And the first one is a lot of empathy and compassion. When I'm talking with other caregivers, we kind of do the, God, ain't it awful? And that's important to me, to share how hard this is, to not pretend that we're just sailing through it and aren't I good, that I've taken workshops and I know a lot of things and I'm really doing this well, but to really be very genuine and real. So one of my stories is sharing the hardship, the challenges, the stresses, the exhaustion, the feeling of like, when will this end? The question of when will this end, if ever, or will I die first? So all of that's part of my story. And I think that's an important reality, because one of the hardest parts of my story was when I had to make the decision a couple of years ago to place my husband in a facility. And you know, as prepared as I thought I was, it was hard. And then the next challenge was, oh my God, I'm not happy with him, with these facilities. And so my husband is now in his 6th facility. I still face challenges, but this is the better of all of them. So I'm trying to work with that. And we have a wonderful director who's actually making improvements and has a sincere desire to make this facility the best. And so I have hope and I have positive feelings about it, and I still go through frustrations weekly. So that's part of my story that's ongoing. And I notice I have this other second story that makes me more contemplative and questioning, like, hey, what's the big picture here? What is this purpose behind all this? Is there some teaching? And I know there are teachings for me, and certainly I have developed as a person in many ways that I'm very pleased with in my own self-development. And at the same time, I wonder, I just have this question that I always am left with, could one of the teachings of this disease, not just for me, but for humanity itself, could we be asked to be more compassionate, to come from our hearts more with one another, to come with kindness and try and make an attempt to understand another person? And I don't mean just people with Alzheimer's, but could this be, in our experience with this disease, could this be a way that we might start thinking about our relationships with everyone? And does the world need us to be more, not only coming from our mind and our thoughts and our ideas and our values, which of course I don't want to negate that at all. We need that part of ourselves so much. And yet, is there more from our heart that we haven't given? Can we open our hearts even more and give more of that to each other? That's my question that I'm living with now. One of the things that I have been so grateful for in this experience of my husband's disease is that it has given me a new creative outlet. And while my particular outlet has been directed in the form of films, I have so many friends who have been doing journals and writing books and creating songs and music. My girlfriend, Catherine, created a rap song. It started over a lunch conversation together, and she ended up writing a great rap song about being a caregiver, which had humor and lightness and truth in it. And I just see websites popping up. There are films that are just about this disease and just about caregivers and about the science of it. There's so much creativity being expressed in this process. So that's something personally I'm so grateful for, that I have this outlet, because it gives me back a lot of energy and hope for the future. And then when I see everyone else doing their thing with their creative projects, I just feel really delighted and joyful and in gratitude for what this has brought as gifts to other people.